Awesome. So, today's topic is about the criminal justice system. And what kind of brought this discussion on was a work event that I had went to with the Snohomish County Public Defender's Office, where they showed a movie that I'll play the clip of the trailer and everything, so you guys can kind of get the vibe of it. And I highly recommend you go see it. It's on Tubi, which is a free platform that everyone can use. But it talked about the criminal justice system specifically relating to Washington and different people's personal experiences with the criminal justice system. And I just found it super like inspiring, especially if you're trying to go into this type of work, to see how it is in Washington, because we're praised a lot in Washington for like doing the right thing, but the truth is we also have a lot of work to do on the criminal justice system out here. So I'm super excited to have Faraji, who was in the film, speak today. And yeah, just hear his story leading up to the criminal justice system, and then his experiences in the system after he left the system. And yeah, also just hear everyone else's thoughts. And yeah, that's basically it for me. Z, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, no.
Okay, awesome. I'll start with playing that clip then of the movie, and then we can go ahead and have Faraji speak. Okay, I'm gonna try. You guys know I'd be struggling technologically. I'm gonna try to make sure my sound is shared before I actually share my screen. Have patience with me. Oh, okay. This is an update. They have a little button where you could press share the audio right here. I like that. Period.
Ray, it looks like you're talking on mute.
Okay, guys, this new thing is when I share my sound, um it doesn't let me speak at all when I play the video. So I'm just going to pull up the video. Just know I won't say a word because yeah, I guess that's the new update here is yeah, I was like, why isn't anyone responding to me? Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm really gonna play the clip now, so you won't hear me speaking anymore.
Well, I gotta figure out how to share it.
No doubt about whose side we're on. People who commit crimes should be caught, convicted, and punished. You will be put away and put away for good. 3 strikes and you are out.
In 1993, Washington State was the first state to implement the 3 strikes policy and make it okay to put people in prison and throw away the key.
Young kids were getting involved in horrendous violence. Things were spiraling wildly out of control.
The face of the threat became young black and brown men.
This is our hill. Don't come here.
The police would round them up for whatever reason they could.
What you doing here? You don't live around here.
Some people didn't commit crimes and were just caught up.
All my friends is either in prison forever or dead.
My name's Kamani Carter, and I'm currently serving a life sentence. My history is the life of a lot of kids out there in our community. And my reality as a young man doing life in prison will be their future if we don't start creating better ways of dealing with our children.
For somebody who was 18 years old at the time of the crime, you don't know who he's going to be 20 years on.
It's about being able to see the Kamani that I've become, and not the Kamani that I once was. for a lot of those kids. I don't think that they've matured enough to calculate the consequences for their actions.
He was 11, and the gangs were already starting the recruiting process.
A lot of answers that people in society are seeking will be found in prison. We've caused pain, but we caused pain primarily because we was in pain.
The Black Prisoners Caucus is about liberation.
The more that we begin to educate ourselves, the more empowered we become.
We've created a support group for positivity in the most unlikely of environments.
You're never too old to find that peace with yourself.
Victims are perpetrators, perpetrators are victims. And we're all victims of this system.
All right. Was everyone able to hear that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, that is kind of how the movie went, and that's kind of the frame of what we're going to be talking about today. So we also will have a chance to ask him questions, whatever you guys feel comes to mind when you hear his story. I know I have some questions ready, and Z does as well. But yeah, with that, Z, would you like to say anything else, or should we go ahead and get started?
I think we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, awesome. Faraji, go ahead and take it away.
Hello, everyone. I am Faraji. I missed a huge portion of the intro that Raynice was giving us because of technology. But I'm on my phone now, have you guys connected to my car speakers. And if you wouldn't mind, Raynice, just paraphrasing how you want me to hold space today. I know we're talking about the punitive justice system, I like to call it. But if you could give me another offering that I could slam home.
Yeah, of course. I was just thinking we would love to hear your story kind of leading up to your experiences in the punitive system, and then when you were inside, and then how it's been after. And then me and Z also have, yeah, just some questions that we could ask you as well after you're done sharing your story.
Gratitude, gratitude. Man, that's a lot. That's as I reflect on all those things, all the intersectionalities of the preschool to prison pipeline, of the foster care to prison pipeline, of the poverty to prison pipeline. There's probably a couple other pipelines that I was shuffled through as a young kid in Tacoma, Washington, where the trailer in the movie starts its origin story. I was a kid of that community. Crack cocaine came and blew through the community of the hilltop, and my parents were gobbled up into that vicious cycle of addiction. And so foster care Washington State deemed that my parents weren't fit enough to be my parents and placed me and my brother into foster care. And we were pretty much lost in there. We weren't there wasn't no care in that system, and there wasn't no financial literacy or adulting that they gently pushed us towards. It was 18 and you age out, and now you got to go figure out life on your own, and that opened up the doorways to crimes of survival, not crimes of violence or any of the other crimes that the system says led to figuring out where I would sleep, what I would eat, or what I would wear. The large juxtaposition, I would say, is that Washington State deemed themselves as my parents when my parents couldn't provide that space. And then they were the same people that prosecuted me, Washington State. And as I was committing crimes for survival, food, clothes, shelter, not only for myself, but for my children, they sent me to a place where food, clothes, and shelter was a given. My 14 years in prison, every day I had 3 meals. Every day I had a place to lay my head. Every day they provided clothes, things that they couldn't provide the younger me or my brother, who is currently still in prison with a 40-year sentence. And so while in prison, excuse me, the first few times, 2 times, there wasn't anything that provided resources after incarceration. There was nothing that provided financial literacy, housing, any of those things. The last time, third time in prison, and they gave me a 20-year sentence. Tomorrow marks 4 years of being home. And I'm still processing, trying to figure out what home is, because that 14 years in prison was my most stable, consistent life. Every day of those 14 years, I had somewhere to sleep, somewhere to eat, something to wear without having to do anything. And reintegrating and trying to unpack what is home, what feels like home to my body, what feels like family to my body. These are things that the system did not address or address now. The Black Prisoners Caucus, they were organized before I even came to prison. They were fighting for education and hygiene for Black and brown bodies that the system wasn't making space for. And they broke those brothers up, and that was like spreading seeds, because now chapters started popping up everywhere, and we learned that together we were much stronger, and together we were experiencing hardships on our humanity that wasn't being addressed. And so I learned in the BPC circle of life. I advocated, I organized, I was able to apply some of the things I was learning in my business class. I was able to apply some of the things I was learning just in my life of reading and wanting to be a better me and a better we. And so BPC didn't only stand for Black Prisoners Caucus, it stand for Better Parents for Children. And I learned how to be a better father, even at a time that I wasn't having access to my children. The fruit of that work in this present moment is BPC breaking prison cycles. I've broke the cycle, not returning. I actually do return, and I teach yoga in prisons right now. Shout out Yoga Behind Bars, you can see the shirt. But there's no trajectory towards recidivism for me right now. I'm a lived expert because I'm applying the knowledge that I acquired while sitting in that place, while that place didn't provide opportunities to sharpen my skills and learn and then apply what I learned. I've shared with Raynice, like, knowledge isn't a power until it's applied. Knowledge in itself isn't powerful unless you apply it. And so I am a lived expert, and I'm free and have all these titles. And since coming home, I've witnessed different parts of my being, my enoughness, my humanity that has institutionalizations. And I work with my therapist, and I work with people in community to be upfront and courageous in that, so that I don't get secondary harm that people will adultize me. There's still a young Faraji that was a foster care kid that I still have residuals from going to foster care. I still have residuals from being in prison for 14 years straight, even though I've been home for 4. There's emphasis people will place on my Black male body Oh, he can speak up. He's intelligent. Oh, he knows how to do a Google document and download it and email it as a PDF. He's did his tax. He's adult. He's a responsible. He knows how to do taxes and business licenses and stuff. And they don't per se see the incarceration, the violent, visceral scars, psychological scars on our bodies after doing a substantial amount of time in prison. And so I advocate about that. I speak to my systemic siblings about that. Since I've been home, I've worked on family reunification with my children and my niece and my nephew and other parts of my family and my extended family. I've worked on adultizing myself. And I've also reclaimed joy and childhood, Black boy joy. These are all parts of my story to be well again, to be whole, to be enough. When I show up in spaces as an aspiring abolitionist, I don't think the system was created in a way that honors anybody's humanity. And we don't have a replacement. Community has not came together enough to be have containers where we don't have to call the police and utilize the punitive justice system to make communities safer. When if we look at the results right now, community isn't any safer than it was. They sent me to prison 18 years ago. I think I'm complete with that. I'm open to any questions, reflections, comments, or concerns.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, Faraji. Before me and Z ask our questions, did anybody have any questions of their own? You could drop them in the chat. You could come off mute. Yeah, any of the above. Anybody have any questions?
Not really a question, just like kind of a comment that one, your story is very inspiring. And I don't think it's like talked about enough, like coming out of the prison system and being introduced back into like a civilian lifestyle. Um, and I guess I do have a question, like what programs do you think should be implemented into the prison system to get those people ready to come back into society?
Thank you, Casey. Definitely appreciate your comment and your question. Yeah, I try not to compartmentalize myself, like even sharing, there's a laborious toll on my Black body to share my story. And I gave y'all a really synthesized, condensed, slightly disjointed share, right? And I think like what programs like could we offer, could be supported? Definitely yoga behind bars. Definitely programs that invite humans being dehumanized into their humanity, into their awareness of their selves, of their triggers, of their traumas, of their the neurological pathways that were the deepest created when at young ages when people were being oppressed, being hungry, being abused, being all the things that I've survived. We will walk with this internal narrative that we're not enough. And when talking about preparing to come home, when you get hit with so many situations and experiences and people and energies, and you've been in this system that criminalizes your humanity. Like you got to pay for your phone calls. You're way out displaced somewhere, so you see your family maybe 3 times a year. You don't know how violence doesn't have to be physical. I spoke to the psychological scars that is on my brain that I may not experience, that I was actually going through trauma while trying to unpack trauma because they weren't whooping me. They weren't placing me in a dungeon and telling me to relieve myself in a hole in the ground. They weren't starving me. That work, there's no program addressing that work. I think the biggest impact can be made by people with lived expertise going back in and representing, being the representation of breaking the cycle of recidivism. The system did not help. The system did not bring in, support any programs that looked like us, that felt like us. Yoga found me at a time in my life, and it wasn't the stretching. It was the stretching of my capacity to love again, to be aware of the indoctrination of white body supremacy in my Black body, to become an anti-racist. I had lenses and still have lenses that will address or see a person from my community as suspicious. Why? Why do I have that lens? What program is going to help that? I think mindfulness activities, nonviolent communication, all these things, they do bring it in to facilities. There's a whole process, which me as the ED of Yoga Behind Bars, and that we run up against challenges with the system every time. I think folks should be able to become 200-hour yoga teachers while still incarcerated and teach it so that they can live it and be it, so that when they do come home, they have some lift in their awareness about the deepest neurological pathways in their brain, so that when all the world comes rushing at someone that's been alienated for 2 decades, they don't go to what's familiar, because that's what the deepest groove in your brain, the neurological pathway, is going to make you do. Go towards what's familiar. So I think, to answer your question and wrap this part up, is that more programs that are steeped in trauma-informed practices, trauma-informed language taught by lived experts that represent and look and feel and have experience, shared experience of those that we want to come home and be successful. Who else got a question for me? I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. As the human, I came home, like I said, tomorrow makes 4 years. So let's do the math, 2021. COVID was a real thing. People were scared. There was a lot of fear on the planet, and people did this Zoom thing. And it's a disconnect for me not to see humans, not to share the most vulnerable, intimate parts of my story and what it takes for me to be here and alive and connected and going back into prisons. And I'm looking at a screen and I'm not seeing the emotions and I'm not seeing the humanity. I'm not seeing the holding of my humanity. This, I don't think all this virtual stuff was a real thing before COVID. Now it's a real thing, and it does cause disconnect. It's convenient, but just because it's convenient doesn't mean it's humane. So I just want to put that in space. I see a niece, and I'm not asking anybody to come off camera, but that's who I'm talking to right now because that's who I can see.
Yeah, I completely feel the same. That's how I started getting comfortable speaking, even was just doing these because it wasn't the same as like being in person, you know? So I get that disconnect is very real. And I'm thinking hopefully one day I can change these into a podcast type of situation that people can go back and listen on. So hopefully that will come in the future. And I'm sorry we can't be in person today. But I do have a question for you. And once again, just want to thank you so much for being vulnerable and being here with us because I know, like Casey said, this is not talked about enough and people are uncomfortable talking about it. But I think the things that people are uncomfortable talking about are some of the most important things that we need to discuss so that we can find community and support and work on these issues. because they're very real. And one thing that I'm super interested in learning is what you think people working with incarcerated individuals should know. Like, how can we be the best advocate for those that are incarcerated? I think it's especially important in the legal field, but in any field that is working with incarcerated individuals. Is there something that you would recommend for all of us to know?
That's a good question. Something to know. I don't think there's like one tool for all these humans. Like it's really like learning how to be in an authentic relationship, knowing your own capacity, your own boundaries. People that have been alienated, forced away from the opposite sex for one, or for this age, or whatever, all the different separation tactics um, can foster all kind of behavioral dysfunctions. I don't know what part, but how do we meet people where they're at and not talk above them? Like not bring in all our education and stuff. Like meet them on this human level and then build an authentic relationship from there to find out what they need. Like, because if you come in already thinking like, oh, this is what someone needs, this is what someone needs, and you miss the mark, then they don't feel they don't feel connected. They don't feel like, hey, I can be my authentic self. And then there's the performance that comes out because they don't want to be abandoned. Many of us in prison feel abandoned. Many of us feel forgotten. Many of us, like, as soon as you write, we're trying to write back, and then we don't get a response for 4 weeks. We feel abandoned. And so those things will start coming out, like the Klingon, the attachment, the love bombing, all these different things, just to keep someone in their life, just for somebody to see them other than a DOC number, a felon, a criminal, all these things, because that's what the system reinforces time and time again. So how do you meet these individuals as a human, whether you're coming in it as a professional, like then really check in with yourself. Like, where's my professional boundaries? How do I hold this and still hold their humanity at the same time? And how do I step up and actually hear what their access needs are if they don't even know what their access needs are? I didn't know what I was going to need in meetings or to become an executive director. I didn't know there was a such thing as executive leadership training. I come from the hood. I come from a different lifestyle. I want to be something better. And for us to get our shot, we'll fake it. We won't say, oh, I don't know this or I don't know that. So to be willing to tease this out of individuals that present as adults that can speak really intelligently. Like there's a lot we don't know, and we don't feel safe to say, hey, I don't know. I need support in this, because we think our opportunity will be taken away from us if we're not in the know, right? There's opportunities that get taken away from us just because we have to check a box that says I'm a felon. I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm system impacted. Like me and my community, we don't call ourselves that. We call ourselves liberated individuals, because we weren't at the table when somebody was thinking they were honoring our humanity when they coined the phrase formerly incarcerated or system impact. That doesn't feel empowering to me. Hi, Z. My name is Faraji. I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm presently liberated. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I definitely think it does. And I really appreciate that perspective because I see that a lot in the legal field. And obviously, I can easily fall victim to it. So that's why I'm so glad I'm having this type of discussion with you, like someone who's actually experienced these things. So I can try and be like the best advocate I can for those I'm working with. And yeah, just really know how to, like you said, address people's needs, because sometimes it's not even just winning a case. It's like maybe a different resource that I can provide, or maybe a different connection that I can make for someone. So I really appreciate that perspective. Z, did you want to ask a question?
Yes. One, I want to say sorry. I keep shutting my camera off. I'm on the floor and like my legs are like getting numb. And so I might have to take you up on that yoga offer because it's getting hard over here. But anyways, one, I want to say thank you. And I appreciate you for, being on here and telling your story. It's very empowering. And I appreciate you for that. My question was, you kind of mentioned there was no resources while incarcerated. I know you mentioned about the Black Prisoner Caucus, and sorry if I said the title wrong. But what other tools that you had while you're incarcerated? Like, did you have to self-advocate? Did you have other people who were incarcerated that had your back self-advocate for you? Just gonna see kind of what the letter of like no resources meant while incarcerated.
I think what I was speaking to specifically on no resources is no resources to reintegrate through. Like once you get out of incarceration, like Casey was saying, like, hey, what programs to prepare people? Like, what can prepare you? Like, I got to tell some of my brothers, like, when I was free, my first 2 years, and they're talking and like so proud of me and everything I'm accomplishing. I'm like, hey, man, let me tell you where I messed up at. Let me tell you where I messed up at. Like, you got to pace yourself when you come home. Like, nobody gets out of prison well. Nobody. We might get out ambitious and be able to speak. Damn right, we read 1,000 books. We have to talk for our humanity, figure out how to say the right combination of words and tones to the police in order not to experience more non-violent, well, violent, but non-physical violence in the visiting room. And so there was no like reintegration resources. Not my first 2 times out. I was a drug felon, convicted drug dealer. They was like, you ain't getting no housing, you ain't getting no food stamps. We don't care if you got 3 kids, it doesn't matter. I came home this time, my kids were grown, and they gave me food stamps. I was happy. I was like, damn, I get food stamps. Inside resources. Resources for what? For our wellness? Like, the healing takes place when we share space. There's the LDO, the Latin Development Organization. There's the CLO, Concerned Lifers Organization. Bridges to Life would come in. Buddhists would come in and meditate. They have an abundant amount of church, Christian-based people that would come in. Some facilities have Toastmasters. But that, like, what I'm mentioning now was when I was at Moreau, which was off of I-5 corridor, which is the most accessible prison in Washington State. But let alone when I was way out in Stafford Creek in Aberdeen, Washington, we're not having that many programs. The BPC isn't robustly flourishing because there's not a community in Grays Harbor that's saying, hey, we want to be accomplices in our white bodies to the fight for Black liberation. So we may get somebody to come way from Seattle, which is a tax on them. We don't have no money to pay them. So really the support and the love through the mask of trauma, through all the masks that people show you in prison. In male prison, it's not safe to be vulnerable. So how authentic was the holding when we got together? Who felt safe enough to cry and say, hey, my daughter just this, and I got to sit in here and I can't hold my baby. The times that the pressure on my neck was so great that I just wanted somebody to come and squeeze and massage. And I asked some of my closest brothers, like, can you massage my neck and my shoulders? And I could get maybe 10 seconds. And then it's like, they got to stop because it's feeling weird. I am in deep relationship with the women that have been incarcerated that now are liberated. And like I said, just yesterday, I was at the women's prison celebrating, which was a really pull of my soul, like celebrating Juneteenth. It was such a wonderful event they put on, and they're talking about Freedom Day, and they're incarcerated. But in there, they have, I want to say it's conditionally when we're in our femme body, right? I connect to my femme body as I present in a male body. That it's more nurturing and soft, and it's different at the women's prison. It's very different. And we're still struggling. My brother's still in there. So like when we ask what resources and stuff and what programs, that's a great question. And when it boils down to it, is it applicable? Is it transformational? We can get the kudos, say we're doing the work, but is it applicable? Is it transformational? Might have lost y'all. Hold on. Can y'all still hear me? Thumbs up. Okay. Had to start my engine so my battery doesn't die. And I'm an optimist also, so I don't want to get disparaging, and I can feel that I'm inspiring folks and people are hearing the heartfelt energy in my testimony. But my people is hurting, man. And my people that is free, quote, quote, I don't feel free. I don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to pay my janky ass car insurance. I don't want to do none of that. And I don't want to be an agent of capitalism. I don't want every time I show up and speak up that I need to get paid, and simultaneously I need to be paid. So it's different now, Z. There's some resources where people can come home and get support by an organization that'll put them in housing. If you want to do some untangling there for a brief second, it's like, how do you give this brother that just did 25 years in prison, 25 straight years in prison, a whole apartment when he's been in a cell with another male body, using one bowl, one spoon, one cup, one water pitcher for 25 years? How do you give them this home and they know what dishes they need, how to cook, how to maintain the bills? And say this person that did this 25 years come from foster care and there's no financial literacy. And this person's most stable life was 25 years in prison. How do they navigate that? Who's there to be there when that person doesn't feel brave enough to say, I don't know what the F I'm doing? Who's there that says, hey, I hear you, I got you, and guess what? You're intrinsically enough. Because everything about the system says that we're not enough. So this is a little deep. I'm taking y'all a little deeper than we could get the surface level stuff. And I'm trying to not allow my frequency to allow me to use more cuss words. I get fangy, y'all. Teeth want to bear, and like, because I'm grateful to be free. My brother's not free. Some of my brothers and sisters that are really dear to me that can make a difference out here are not free. And as more of us get out, those empty beds are replaced with the younger folks. And I hate loud motorcycles, trucks that go by with mufflers. You don't get that noise in prison. I'm complete. Anyway, give me some more questions. I see more faces. I'm grateful.
Yeah, did anyone have any other questions?
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say that earlier you had said like not what did you say? Violence is not always physical. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking on is like it has to start in the prison, in the system with those who are working there. Cause I think when you hear a lot, when you get out, you're not gonna be shit, like when you're talked down to and things like that. So yeah, that just really that has stuck with me this entire time that you've been speaking. Like violence is not always physical. And I think, like you said, it's really hard to get out. And maybe there are resources that can help you transition back into life. But when you're being told these things for so many years, it's hard to unlearn those things, I think. So yeah, I just like how you put that violence is not always physical.
And that's real. I would like to bring in the analogy of boiling a frog. Anybody on screen knows how to boil a frog? No. Um, there's a lot of wisdom in different things that we can extrapolate, but you put a frog in boiling hot water, it's gonna hop right out as soon as you drop it in the boiling water. But if you put a frog in lukewarm room temperature water, it'll sit in there. If you slowly turn the temperature up until it's boiling, the frog will acclimate and stay. It will change its body temperature until it's boiled. This is a workshop that I'm working on called Desensitized to Normalcy. When you're not, especially male bodies, are not getting physically violence enacted upon their bodies, it'll be normal to experience this trauma, this psychological trauma. And our nervous systems being dysregulated is a normal thing. That's why yoga is such a panacea for me. Like, because I know what it feels like to be in a regulated body. But for many of my systemic siblings, they don't know. And so their shoulders up, sleeping 8 hours, waking up tired. Your nervous system hasn't rested. You slept, but you haven't rested. And so, yeah, the non-physical violence is a real thing. And over time and time and time, one thing humans are good at is adapting. Thank you for your comment, Casey.
Thank you so much. I love his analogies. He always has such good analogies that help you like think about things in different ways. So I appreciate that, Faraji. And did anyone else have any questions for Faraji before? Because me and Z probably have a few more, but oh, we got one more person coming in right now too. Period. Did anyone else have any other questions though?
I had a question.
What up, though?
I was just gonna ask if there were any things that you feel like you learned that were actually like helpful, I guess, in prison. Any things that you took with you that like you use in everyday life, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely brought my yoga practice out with me. Trying to think, like, I'm sure stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that came with me that I don't even realize. My biggest thing is my consciousness. I didn't go in changing my thoughts. I went in trying to fight my appeal, get out. I still was hustling. I still was like trying to survive because I could only get $10 a month. I think I brought out being very intentional with my words. Not forcing people to be at where I want them to be at on their journey of self-awareness. I think I brought out, nobody knows if they ain't performing or practicing with you, they don't know you messed it up. Like, just go, be confident. Like, I've shared the stage with La Russell, with Dead Prez, Talib Kweli. These are all different rappers. I've been in Zoom rooms with the Washington State Supreme Court Justice, the other lawyers. I'm not afraid no more. They're not going to silence me. I've had social workers, attorneys, guardians, LIDEM, all these people that's supposed to speak and advocate for me, and I ended up still being harmed. And so I brought up speaking up. Like, I spoke up in the system. They had this thing called the behavior log. It should have been called the misbehavior log because all they wrote in there was misbehavior. One day I had a free thought, try to decolonize my mind, and said, "Hey, can I see that log? See what you guys write, what my session says?" And I seen it all, and I said, "This should be called the misbehavior log because I know you saw me yesterday chase that piece of plastic down the breezeway, pick it up, put it in the trash. I know you see me push people in wheelchairs. I know you see me do all these other behaviors. And if I happen to need to go to court and they request this behavior log, none of that's going to be indicated. So what part of my humanity are you choosing to see?" And I get it. You're trained like this. You're trained to be suspicious. So even if I'm doing the humane thing, you're trained to see it as suspicion. And within a month, they came out with a memo to staff that says for every misbehavior entry, you need to write a neutral or a positive. They call them BOEs now, behavior observation something. And so that changed. Is it doing any good? I don't know.
Thank you so much for that question, Kiki, and thank you. Keon's my brother, by the way, Faraji, and thank you, Faraji, for giving us that perspective because that's something I also took away from the film was that like a lot of the times the criminal justice system forces you to only see like the worst thing that someone did, and I don't think any of us would want to be judged off of one mistake that we made or maybe the lowest that we felt in life. And so I think it's really important to see people as entire human beings. And so I like that change. I mean, it's kind of weird that it's like one negative and one positive. Like I wish you could just see everybody as like, you know, a whole because I think we would have a way different criminal justice system if we did approach it in that way, but that is not how our criminal justice system is built, and I think that's on purpose. And I think a lot of people's attitudes can definitely become jaded. I'm thinking prosecutors sometimes can become jaded from seeing only the parts of people that make mistakes. And so I've just seen like some attitudes based off of that one narrow view of someone. And I am really glad that today we're able to like talk to you and see different aspects of you as well, like your yoga practice, which I think I definitely want to try as well because as Black individuals in this world, we hold a lot of trauma and stress. And so I think having a way to cope with that is super important. And I'm wondering if you would like to talk more about your yoga practice or also the Black Prisoner Caucus, either one, and how we can interact with your yoga and with volunteering with the Black Prisoner Caucus.
Let's see what Rachel's saying here. This is so awesome. That's my screen. Let me see. This is so awesome. It's so inspiring to see things change and hear someone's story who has made such a major change, even when it was just a thought. I can only imagine how many people who have helped that small change, right? And there's many parts of the story. Many people change agents. I decided that I was going to be the change that I wanted to see in the world when I came home, and yoga was the vehicle for that. And not just the stretching, but the mindfulness, the self-study, the chanting, right? What do you say the most often? If you could look back in your life, this present moment, to all the previous moments, what is the thing you say the most? What is the thing you feel the most about yourself? That is your mantra. And that is the vibration that you arrive with. And, you know, I practice that intentionally through my yoga practice. And it helps me to be the optimist. I'm in love with love. I love life. I carry a lot of stuff for my community because I can see it and I don't judge it. I know it's the symptom. People are being squeezed by the construct, and the construct is white body supremacy and capitalism. Period. Pyramid, period. Whatever you want to think, that's what it is. And it squeezes us, and then we'll display a symptom out of being squeezed by that construct that we're not enough. You are intrinsically enough. I had to reassure myself that I had to affirm myself that. And then even if people weren't directly saying that I was enough, their reactions, their holdings, their applying whatever that was coming through my yoga practice, my study, my rhymes, my poetry, that let me know it was affirmed through the application. And so, speaking about yoga, I'm a yogi. Seattle Magazine put me in their magazine as one of 25 most influential people this year. I know nobody from Seattle Magazine, so somebody was sharing space with me and reached out and said, you should interview that guy. I'm grateful for that because my yoga practice allows me to set aside the doership. And it's not me doing it, it's yoga doing it through me. So I do have a spiritual practice with yoga, and that's what shows up. That's what shows up when you come to one of my classes. I don't have a whole sequence in my head. You can come and you can do nothing. It's always going to be trauma informed, which means it's always an invitation. You are invited to be in this shape. And if you don't want to be in that shape, when I go see the young men at King County Juvie, they don't want to do downward dog. I'm okay with that, right? How do we decolonize? When people say, well, traditionally, whose tradition? The people that stole it? Like, I don't want to do anything traditionally by what's in my brain. The work with the BPC, we have a community group now. You can follow our social media at Black Prisoners Caucus Community Group, or CG, Black Prisoners Caucus CG. We have an Instagram. We have a social media person that will respond to your messages. We're planning a gala, a Harlem Renaissance fundraiser gala in August for Black August. The social media page will be announcing that. We're going back into the prisons with Teach. And Teach is taking education and creating history, acronym that brothers put together. What else are we doing? We do court support. We show up to court when people are getting resentenced or sentenced, or if you need community in the courtroom, looking at these judges and these prosecutors like, hey, you're not just sentencing or doing this to this one person. This person has a whole community that's impacted. That has changed. We feel it's made a big change. We've given back over 300 and something years back to the system in resentences by being there, by being able to testify and say, hey, I know this person. I know, look, the lawyer could do all the legalities. I'm going to speak to the humanity of this person and actually who they're actually accountable to when they come home. It's community. When somebody's harmed in community and they sentence this person to all this time, the community still absorbs whoever the victim family is. That person still comes back to community. The court doesn't like pamper them and send them to Turks and Caicos for a month for a retreat. They come back, the trauma comes right back to our circles. And so we're working on mitigating that and practicing restorative and transformative justice circles. We work with Seattle Public Schools and the teachers there in the Seattle Teacher Residency, especially out of the Moreau chapter, in their education committee. We go in and talk about the preschool to prison pipeline and how they can speak to these young Black boys that they criminalize and adultize. They see young Black boys, 12, 13, 14, as 20-year-olds. There's a lens, there's an optics that we all have because we've all been indoctrinated by the system about how to view people. I think if you want to get involved with BPC, whether that's the community group or one of the prisons, and you want to go in and share space, I think because there's so many different, each prison have a different rule. I would invite Renice to give y'all my email. Actually, I'll put it in the chat. I learn in technology. I have so many different emails, but for this hat about Black Prisoners Caucus, you can email me at this following email. It's pretty long. But you can, and for social media, if you're interested in yoga, you can, this is my IG and my Facebook. You can get at me there, follow, I'll follow back. But yes, email me at the Black Prisoner Caucus CG email if you're interested in going into one of the prisons, whether that's just to share space and get that experience or potentially become a volunteer or a sponsor. You can get at me that way. I'll put you in contact with the sponsors that are already at those facilities or list out the facilities that you can potentially go to and then connect you with the person, place, people, or whatever that will help you get into those facilities. And it's a process, but don't be thwarted. That's what they want us. They want us to stop.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your information with us. I know my mom and I will be volunteering this summer. I'm super excited about it. So I really hope you guys also take some steps after this to either volunteer or check out Faraji's yoga and also just pass the information along. Now that you know, you can't say that you don't know anymore. You can only say that you don't care. So I would really like to see people. Hey, you like that one, Faraji? I would really like to see everybody doing something after this, and I really appreciate everyone who's in this room because you guys have all been like super consistent. I also saw a few new faces come in today, so I'm really grateful that we had this participation for this session. And Z, if you don't have any last thoughts to add, or Faraji, then I think we can call it a session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Faraji.
Thank you so
Peace and
much.
purpose, everyone.
Peace and purpose.